So folks, I think it's time for a little spring garden tour. You've seen a lot of what's going on in the greenhouse, but you haven't seen what's going on in the rest of the garden. And this is that very special time of year. You know, the garden's not looking its best, but it is that moment when the lilac is in full flower, the flame azalea is out, the hawthorn is flowering, all of the bluebells are flowering, and a whole load of other stuff that I will show you in a minute. So we'll do a bit of a garden tour, give you a bit of an update of how things have been going, some of the mistakes I've made so far this year, but nothing that can't be rectified. So I think we'll start up the top of the house here. Hi chicken, are you coming to help? Another reason for getting this tour done now is because this end of the garden's about to become a bit of a building site, because I'm about to start on the decking project, which means moving everything from up here out the road so we can build the decking finally. I've planted out a couple of little kind of herb containers. We've got oregano, chives, parsley and thyme, and then I've popped a couple of marigolds in the middle. The marigolds, they're not flowering, and I think it's because they've not been getting enough sunlight, but hopefully as the summer improves that will sort itself out. We're going to end up with quite tall small marigolds, I think. Anyway, over here we've got petunias and another marigold. I can't remember what that plant is. It just seems to come back year after year. It does normally flower, so I'm not going to get rid of it. And then in the big pots we've got an agapanthus and a bunch of petunias around it as well. So I'm hoping that'll kind of look nice once it all kind of fills out. We've got the same over on the other side, where we've also got a whole bunch of different lettuce plants and some spinach as well, which hasn't bolted quite yet, but we will see. It is a cooler end of the garden, so hopefully the spinach might be okay. And as I say, the other agapanthus and the petunias over here. The lilac, as I say, is just looking absolutely stunning, and man, it smells amazing. Honestly, it smells like a perfume factory over here. And this is the best that it's flowered yet since we cut it back hard a couple of years ago. We've got a rose bush over there, various alliums and things which I've had to stake because we need some extra plants around here to kind of bush things out a bit. But this is the shady side of the garden, and finding stuff that grows on this side is a little bit challenging. We've then got more alliums around the back here, but nothing at the front because the lavender that was there just died. But we do have the fuchsia coming through quite strongly, so we'll see how that does. We've got the rose spirea here, and I've only just noticed this. Look at this clematis here. Wow, I need to tie that up a bit. That's gorgeous flowers on that. The jasmine, sadly, doesn't look like it's coming back to life, which, I don't know. It should have been hardy, but it doesn't seem very happy. So we need something here to fill this gap. We've then got the dog rose, which is held up by the old sycamore tree, which is basically just acting as a sycamore bush and a bit of a framework for the dog rose, because the dog rose is doing its thing. We're slowly training it along to the trellis. Then underneath we've got this gorgeous little azalea, which I've just put a whole load of ericaceous compost and iron sulfate around it to try and accelerate that along a little bit. I'm not doing anything with the flame azalea feed-wise because that is quite happy the way it is. Needless to say, the flame azalea is just our pride and joy at this time of the year. We kept this in the garden. It was original to the garden. It was absolutely smothered in brambles and snowberries and everything else, and it was literally, I mean, it was tiny when we first bought the property. So if it wasn't for all the clearance work that we did, you would never have seen this because it was just completely smothered. Gorgeous plant. It only flowers for about 2 weeks, so in a week or so time this will start dropping its petals. But as I say, it's that really special time when this is flowering at the same time as the lilac and all of the bluebells and the hawthorn, and it's just such a stunning plant. Even on a dark, gloomy day, it looks kind of a luminous orange. It's like got this fluorescent glow to it. It's amazing. And by the way, if you're new to the channel, we're in zone 9A, I think, in terms of hardiness zone. But then in terms of garden zones, I've already made a video about all the different zones of our garden. So this is what we would call zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, blah, blah, blah. So zone 1 is the sunny, probably the sunniest bit of the garden over on this side. Everything grows like crazy on this side, including the snowberry hedge, which is intermingled with the privet, but I'm quite happy with that because when this flowers, it just is an absolute haven for bees, honeybees, loads of them. They love the snowberries. We've got another little azalea down the bottom there, lavender, forgotten what this little fella is, picked it up cheap. It's a Pritzalago. It was on special in Asda. It was about £1 or something. Various pots and things. This is a nondescript pot of purple flowers that I bought from seed from the supermarket. It doesn't tell you what sort of plants they are other than they're purple, which is fantastic. We've got rosemary, lavender, dill, which is struggling a bit, but I've got loads of spare dill in the greenhouse, which I might show you in a bit. Then obviously all of the bluebells over here and lavender behind that. Hawthorn is in full bloom at the minute, looking absolutely stunning. We've also got the Fatina here that were planted in. We've got a sage here, which should grow up pretty big as well. We've already talked about all the plants at the back here. Wild cherry, astilbe, which is coming through really strongly, along with the acer on the side there, Californian lilac, and all of the other stuff here. The exciting thing here is that this is the area that I'm going to be planting out the red sunflowers. So we've got one in here and one over on that side, and we've still got a bunch in the greenhouse that I need to pot out, but I haven't had any time to do that yet. So yeah, still early days over on this side. You know, this still looks pretty bare around here, but once this sage bushes out and obviously the fuchsia and everything else, hopefully that'll fill this area out a little bit. This plant here, by the way, is an achillea, which I think it's a pink variety of achillea. It is a perennial, allegedly. Obviously doing snail removal as I'm wandering around. I've got various beer traps and stuff set up all around the garden to try and control the crazy amount of snails that we've been getting. In front of the studio, it's just the lavender and rosemary. These rosemaries have done amazingly well, and we've got plenty of gaps in between here that I can plant out some of the annuals that I've been growing from seeds, such as zinnia, and maybe even more sunflowers might go along here as well. So do tune in for a summer kind of update once things are in full bloom. But as I say, I just wanted to give a bit of a kind of spring update. And then over into what I would deem as being zone 3 of the garden, which is shady side, kind of midway down the garden opposite the studio room. And again, loads of alliums. The alliums are getting really, really tall. I've had to stake pretty much all of them. The buddleia is coming through really strong over there. All of the peonies are coming through really strong as well. Apple blossom in the middle here, and another Californian lilac. In all honesty, the apple blossom seems to be taking over from the Californian lilac a little bit, which I'm not particularly bothered about. Our ancient apple tree here, which is intermingled with an elder, and then further down we've got the sarcococa that you guys recommended. Got one there and one there. It's doing really well. Whole load of bluebells under the tree as well, and ferns, they're doing really well too. We've got a rose bush here, and then working our way around we've got the astilbe and the sarcococa, more ferns and allium at the side there as well. Then we get to zone 4 in the garden, which is basically on the sunny side, but in front of the studio room. We're in the middle of moving the water butt at the minute. That's another project. I think that's going to be on the Gosforth Handyman channel, so make sure you're subscribed over there as well. Anyway, generally on this side, everything's fine. The peony is coming through with a vengeance. As I say, I'm always in two minds about peony because, I mean, they're lovely plants, but they flower for such a short period of time. This will be probably coming into bloom in, I would say, about 2 weeks or something like that, and then it just kind of dies a bit of a death, but I don't mind. It's a good kind of filler plant. More alliums around here. We've got a cotoneaster, a yew, we've got a blueberry, another cotoneaster, the plum tree, a rose bush. We do need to fill this out a bit, but we have got so many annuals planted up in the greenhouse. We have got no shortage of stuff to put down here. This is very, very free draining soil down here, by the way. It seems to have some sort of weird volcanic kind of ash stuff mixed in with it. So as I say, I've got all of the zinnias and things like that. We've got hundreds of zinnias to plant out, so this could be a good spot for a lot of those. More snails, and then continuing our journey down the sunny side of the garden. Obviously we've got the raised beds. They are generally doing absolutely great, fingers crossed. Potatoes are getting absolutely huge, and all of the lettuces and things around here seem to be doing pretty well as well. By the way, all of those hooks are fitted. Every single one pretty much is broken, so yeah, a bit of a duff purchase there. It doesn't really help that I keep knocking them with the lawnmower, but yeah, I'll need to come up with a better solution for netting this off next year to stop the cats using it as a litter tray. Anyway, we've done the wood chip in between. We've got obviously the gravels all down on this side. We've got more potatoes in pots around here and more marigolds ready to plant out as well. And obviously we're working on the water butt project at the moment, which is going to go in the corner just there. I'll not bore you too much with the greenhouse because you've seen loads of videos about what's going on in here. Obviously the tomatoes are all planted out and they seem to be doing absolutely fine. And the main stuff in here at the moment, again, it all needs planted out really. We've got dill, sweet pea, curly kale, spare tomato plants, millions of zinnia, lavatera, what else? Viola Swiss giants, more sage, more spinach, more lettuce. Yeah, loads going on in here, but as I say, we'll save that for a future video. Oh, and by the way, my wood chip pile seems to have turned into a giant ant's nest, but yeah, such is life. And then we're into zone 5, which is the final kind of section of the garden. And this is our kind of wild area. Lots of, well, we've got forget-me-nots, cow parsley, we've got the rhododendron over on that side, another rhododendron over on that side, and then hopefully everything around here, well, we're just leaving it to go wild. We've put a lot of wildflower mix down to kind of encourage bees and wildlife and all that sort of thing. We are seeing a lot of hoverflies this year, which is really, really good news. Hopefully should keep the aphid population under control to a degree. Ignore the pile of bricks, that's for the water butt project. But yeah, generally, not a lot to report here. As I say, there's not many of the wildflowers are coming through quite yet because we're a little bit early on, but you will see that on later videos when I do a bit of a summer update of the garden. But as I say, I just wanted to give you a quick spring update so you see what's happening, and in the meantime I can plough on with the decking project, get that all done, and then come summer I'll give you another update when hopefully some extra things will have grown up around the bottom here. But to be honest, it's already looking pretty damn great. We've got bluebells all over the shop, buttercups, as I say, the rhododendron, cow parsley, forget-me-nots, all of that. It's generally doing all right. And folks, how's this for a real-time update? It is literally 2 weeks later now. I am filming this on the 2nd of June. The dog rose is just starting to come into flower. We've got alliums feeding the bees all over the place. Sunflower is about double the height of when you last saw it, and there's a whole load more planted out. Nondescript purple flowers still haven't done anything. The wild cherry is even bigger than it was before, and Mrs. Mac has lopped the top off it to try and bring it under control a bit, and she's trimmed all the hedges as well, which is fantastic. Don't think the snowberries are blooming quite yet. There's one tiny little flower just there. That's that plant in the bucket I was talking about that does come into flower. It's just starting to come into flower. It's really nice. Can't remember what it is, but yeah, we'll leave that doing its thing. Oh my word, what have we got here? We've got some marigold flowers are actually starting. This is supposed to be a small marigold and it's about a foot tall, but hey, if it does its thing, I'm not bothered. We've got a little bud there and there. Potatoes are getting frankly ridiculous. I'm not quite sure. I need to double check when the first earlies need to come up. It's probably getting quite soon. They're just going into flower there, you can see. These are the foremost potatoes, so yeah, maybe it's about time to dig some of them up. And the Maris Piper, I've had to stake some of these because they're getting so tall. You can see these are just starting to come into flower as well. So yeah, we're going to end up with like an abundant potato crop all kind of happening at the same time. such is life. I'm not particularly bothered. It's a bit of an experimental year, this, to work out how everything works. We've already had our first produce from the garden, absolutely loads of the Lollo Rosso lettuce, and the cos lettuce as well is doing pretty well. Hasn't been ravaged by slugs too much in this bed now that we've managed to get things under control. Managed to get some of the zinnias planted out, so fingers crossed for them. Peony is just about to bloom. I need to tie that up a little bit because it's flopping over all over the place like it normally does. More zinnias in front of the studio room. Interestingly, have a look at this. We have got coffee grounds around these ones, and these are generally okay. But this one here, I didn't put any coffee grounds around, and it did get eaten a fair bit by slugs. I presume it's slugs. I don't know. What's chewed away at that, folks? I haven't seen any kind of caterpillars or anything like that. We've got 2 remaining marigolds to plant out that are in the greenhouse at the minute, and you can see one of them's flowering. That's really exciting. And we've got more, these are sun gold sunflowers that are in the greenhouse over there. More potatoes, temporary water collection solution. We've got 3 tomato plants outside at the minute. These are all Ace 55, so these are all determinate tomatoes that I've just left outside in the sun. Oh, and by the way, the coriander that I split from the supermarket coriander, yeah, that's done really well. Bearing in mind, this is all from one supermarket plant. 1/3 of it is in the house that we use for cooking and things, and then the remaining 2 plants I've just got in the greenhouse here, and it's doing absolutely great. So the answer is, folks, yes, you can split supermarket coriander. Sage doing absolutely great. I desperately need to get these sweet pea plants planted out, but I just haven't had time. Lavatera doing really well as well. And then, folks, check out the tomatoes. They are doing absolutely great. I'm just kind of winding it round the string as it grows. I have to be a little bit careful because I don't want to break our brand new plants. That's a cherry tomato at the front there, but yeah, they're doing great. Some of them are producing the first little flowers. Oh, look at that. I've got little basil pots growing in between here as well. That's supermarket basil split, by the way. So we've got one there, and one there. So they effectively cost 33p each. So that's not bad going. And then we've got all this stuff up here that I don't know what to do with. And who said the spinach was going to bolt? You were 100% correct. Oh, and by the way, top end of the garden, decking project well underway. Today I need to move these concrete covers out the road, and we'll be starting on the bulk of this next week, I think. Been held back a fair bit because of the weather, but we're getting there. So folks, if you've got any questions or comments or things that you think we should have done differently, do post it down below. We haven't done anything in terms of feeding the lawn yet or anything like that. It is desperately in need of a feed, but that'll green the lawn up a little bit. We're really not precious about weeds and things in the lawn. We're not going for a manicured perfect garden. We really want a more of a kind of cottage garden feel to this, and hopefully over time more and more of the lawn will be replaced with more and more plants as the plants mature. But it is still really early days, bearing in mind that 2 years ago the garden looked like this. We had to literally rip everything out to get all of the invasive weeds out, and there was a rat infestation, massive bindweed infestation, brambles everywhere. It was really a case of starting again, and in that respect, although this is a 100-year-old property, this is a very young garden, and you can follow the journey of how this develops over time if you subscribe to this channel, and I'll keep you updated at every stage of the process. For now, folks, as per usual, look after one another, be nice to each other. We shall see you next time. Tatty bye.